Hello, and welcome to the Grand Cinema Hotel, a podcast hosted by three friends who love cinema. I'm Nathan, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Alvaro and Gus. Tonight, you will be staying in Room 104, Dune, the latest film by acclaimed director, Denis Villeneuve. So go ahead, get comfortable, and throw on that Do Not Disturb sign as we crash land into Dune.
The Spice Melange.
What's up, everyone? Thanks for checking back into the Grand Cinema Hotel. We literally just got back from seeing Dune in the theaters, so we're still kind of digesting it. That was my first time seeing it. I know that these two guys, they actually watched it on HBO beforehand. Gus, what were your opinions on that, seeing it at home versus seeing it in the theaters?
Okay, I feel like it was justified watching it at home. Obviously, it would be a much better experience the first time to have seen it in the theater. But after our theater experience today, which was not a good one, it kind of made sense. Like, not that it made sense, but I was happy that I watched it at home first because nothing was being like spoiled for me, like by the thing that happened. I want to hear what Alvaro has to say, and then let's get back to what happened in the theater.
I got to see it the first time in the theater. This is really funny, but yeah, our experience today at the theater was something that's never happened to me. We were hearing the sound from Halloween that was right next to us, and that was really distracting because it was happening during one of the coolest parts, one of the most quietest parts in the movie. You guys saw a couple other stuff going on, right? Like with people around you guys?
Yeah. You know what, the scene you're talking about, it's funny because let's just kind of like set the scene for everybody right now. We're actually recording in my living room instead of like in my kitchen dining room area. And since Dune is on HBO Max, we're live watching it right now as we're recording this. And we're at the scene that was ruined for us in the theater. It's the scene where Paul meets the Bene Gesserit for the first time. It was just so funny, dude. Like, it was one of the worst experiences ever.
It was just crazy because, I mean, it's like Rose said, it's a very quiet scene. Seems to be very important for one of the main kind of storylines going on in this movie. And it's quiet, and you just hear the Halloween theme song playing.
Yeah.
It's just like,
I think so. What had happened was that the doors were open for our theater, and then the doors were also open across the hall. And I know that because since I had seen this movie, I had to take a piss halfway through. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go because since I've already seen this. And that's when I realized that the sound was still blasting from the theater across from us. I don't understand why it was so loud.
Yeah, I don't know.
It really did feel like one of the speakers in our theater was like hijacked by the Halloween music and that it was playing through. So that was just a weird like fourth wall meta thing to just hear like an iconic theme song like the Halloween song during this movie.
It was honestly pretty distracting. So
I know we're talking about Dune today, but Halloween Kills fucking sucks.
I didn't see it. I don't know if I'm going to see it.
That was the worst movie I've seen all year.
You don't need to see it.
You don't think so?
No, I agree with you. It's probably the worst movie I've seen this year. There's just nothing that you're missing by not watching it.
I mean, I don't really want to use this platform to shit on movies, but that was an exceptionally like awful movie.
And that's why that makes the sound from it, which I like the score from Halloween, to be fair. That's the one part that I do like, but for it to be playing during we're watching this and Nate's watching it for the first time, and it's like I want him to get the full experience and enjoy it. And then one of the parts that like I like this part a lot too, for it to be this blaring, because I try to I could ignore sounds.
Yeah,
I could, or like I'm
you try your best to at least.
I'm so like again really into this scene and everything, but I'm like, dude, this is like blaring on my left side, and I could just hear you guys laughing too.
Yeah, a guy behind us eventually just got up and shut the doors for us. He was the real one on that.
Which it's funny because the scene in question in Dune, it's still my favorite scene.
Yeah, and even now that we're watching it in front of us, you're still not hearing the sound.
No. Luckily, we have subtitles on, which maybe you should have used subtitles seeing it the first time anyways.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Ro had seen it in like the Dolby IMAX situation. How did you feel? Did you feel in that first time seeing it that the sound was like overwhelming the dialogue?
That's what I was gonna say. Is watching it even there because the speakers are really well. You know,
Yeah,
what I
they're
mean?
even better,
They're
right?
like that.
Sound travels across.
That's the whole reason why it's special. Yeah, there are some sounds where the score is just a little too loud. And this scene specifically, the mom is saying some dialogue when she's like, you know,
She's
in a very
praying for
crucial.
Paul.
Yeah, I think exactly. She's praying, and you can't really hear what she's saying. And then when I've rewatched it on HBO Max with the subtitles, she's saying stuff that is very reminiscent to the themes in this movie, and it sucks that stuff like that just goes right over your head, because supposedly being in the theater is the best way to see it. And visually it is, because it's a huge screen and you want to see a spectacle like this on the biggest screen. But audio wise, I think there's an argument that it's better right now where we're watching it in 4 closed doors, not with somebody having to get up to go to the bathroom, you know?
Yeah. I mean, what do you really have to say? Like, you're right that this movie does belong on like the biggest possible screen you can see it on, and I unfortunately still have not seen it on the biggest screen that is available to me. I've seen it on my TV, which is a pretty decent size, and I know I just made the joke to you guys before we started recording that, hey, if you sit close enough, everything is IMAX, right? And we were maybe like 3 or 4 rows back of the theater that we were in, which was not that big. I don't know if you guys had noticed that the 2 rows ahead of us were just completely empty. Like the row we sat in was probably filled. I think the entire row except for like the last seat to the left of us. Yeah, I mean, it does suck when you have these kind of experiences like with a movie like this that you're so excited for, just to have somebody either talking. There was like phone flashing.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on, but I mean, I do want to go see it again.
I think I'll definitely see it a third time. Yeah, I mean, I'm watching it a third time right now,
Yeah,
but
right.
I would definitely like to see it in like the best setting possible.
So moving on from like our theater experience and the sound critiques, what were you guys' overall opinions on the movie?
I really liked this movie like a lot. I had been having discussions with Ro since last year about this movie that like in the beginning I wasn't too excited about the color palette of the movie, and I think maybe it's just because I had always like really fucked with like the Jodorowsky Dune documentary, and then like I do like the David Lynch movie as well. I mean, it doesn't really hold a candle to this one, but it just the actual like visuals themselves just being so much more colorful. I get that it's like a desert planet and there's pretty much only a few colors here, but overall I do think this was like a visually beautiful movie. I was gladly wrong about this movie. I felt like I tried to keep my expectations low so that I wouldn't be like expecting too much or disappointed, because I really wanted to enjoy this movie, and I'm glad that I ended up enjoying it.
What about you, Ro?
I was going to say, this is the first movie that I've seen in a while that is like spectacle like this, that also is like a part 1 that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
Because like we have Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter, right? And I wasn't around for Star Wars, the beginning of it. I was around for Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Rings my parents didn't like, or Harry Potter. So I only got to see, like Harry Potter, I saw the first 3 and that was it. Like I just never got to see him. And then, what was the other one I was saying? Sorry.
You said Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, and then Lord of the Rings, I saw the first one with my uncle, and that was it. And I really liked the first one.
Yeah.
But I just feel like when I saw it, I was too much of a kid to appreciate what the
Like
movie,
the scope and scale of the movie. It was just a cool movie.
Exactly. And like this was the first movie that I've seen that it's when I like movies, and I've heard about Dune, and I like the ideas about Dune, and I've heard what Dune has inspired, and I was able to kind of be there for its like opening weekend. And so to me, it's a very special movie, because I feel like I haven't seen too many movies of this scope that I like really, really like.
Yeah.
And like how the themes that it presents, and so much of cool stuff that I like. Like I always tell you guys, like I like space and horror, right? And it's really cool that there's like witches in this, and there's time travel. And so the themes that this movie has, like I really, really like. And so I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I would agree with both of you. I've really enjoyed this movie. It was something that I've also been looking forward to for a long time. And personally, I'm a big fan of these, big, epic, like lore-based stories. So to be totally honest and transparent, I didn't know shit about Dune going into it. I've seen some YouTube videos about like, video essay type things, but, kind of paid half attention to that. So to be on, like Ro was saying, to be on the forefront of what could eventually become one of these massive worlds, like cinema universes that they're gonna build, like they have with, like we were talking about, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, stuff like that.
Game
like,
of Thrones as well.
Game of Thrones,
Yeah, Game of
exactly.
Thrones.
Can't ignore something like that. So to be, be there in the theater on opening weekend for something that could span, 8 films over the next 12, 15 years it's exciting. I think one of my biggest critiques of this film is it left me wanting more. Which I don't think is the worst thing that it could have done.
That's definitely not a bad critique.
Right?
Yeah.
I just want more. Like, I left the theater and immediately was like, I'm going to go home for the next 2 days probably and binge all the lore that I can on this because I want to learn. Honestly, this is not something to go into. Like, it's not a bad idea to go into this with some background, I feel like. But I thought it was a really cool movie, very exciting. I really liked it.
I did feel like I had told you guys that I had been like preparing for this movie for a long time, like ever since I had heard that it was announced, and it was just something I'd always like wanted to read. I have the book and I still haven't like finished it or even gotten halfway through. But speaking of like Game of Thrones and stuff like that, right? Like I used to love watching Game of Thrones, and I really got into like the lore of that, especially since they were doing like they're gonna do the spinoff shows. I was like, I always feel like the coolest stuff is the stuff they never talk about.
Exactly.
Right? That always happens for some reason. Like with Game of Thrones, for instance, like this show that they're going to do, House of the Dragon. This is like the thing I always wanted to see is like, give me the dragons, give me the cool storyline, give me all of that. Why does that always have to be 1,000 years ago? And so like with Dune, I actually came across this YouTube channel that I would watch like the video essays on about Game of Thrones, and that dude had also done Dune as well. Like Dune is like his favorite book series, I think. I think his name is like A Song of Ice and Fire. I hope I'm getting that right, because I'm pretty sure he's probably putting out content about like the movie as we speak. So like shout out him, because he's one of the people who really helped me like understand this world as much as I can for someone who hasn't read the book. What did you guys think? Like, so since you didn't really know anything going into this, do you feel like you have like a solid understanding of the world itself?
I would say like from this movie standpoint, I didn't have any questions. I mean, I did have questions, but
like you were saying about the lore, though.
But but like talking to you about everything, and you're like, well, this is this and this is that, and like expanding upon everything. That's when I was like, oh, like that's why I want more, I think.
Yeah, this movie easily could have been longer, I think.
That's what you were saying, right?
That's the other thing is this is what it's 2.5 hours. I think it could have easily been 3:10.
Yeah, I would not have been disappointed if it was that long. Honestly, I wish it could have been.
And I think that feeling that he has about, I can't get everything that you've been talking about, telling us about that Dune has that this didn't have, is why a lot of people thought this was a cursed movie to do for a long time, and that it would be really hard for anybody to pull this off. Why Jodorowsky, it was just an abandoned project, and why some people that really like the books don't seem to like the older movie, because there's always too much.
That older movie really is a cursed project, because David Lynch just doesn't acknowledge that movie. He won't talk about that movie. There's no director commentary about that movie. I believe he tried to have his name removed from the film, which I think is somewhat of an exaggeration. I know that like someone like David Lynch is one of our great auteurs,
right?
But I still think at the end of the day that Dune movie is not something to be ashamed of. It is what it is, and I know that's a cliche saying, but I've seen it a couple times and I enjoy it. I mean, there's no way it holds a candle to this, and on a technical level, on the spectacle scope level of it all. Like, this is truly an epic, the 2021 version. But the 1984 version is fun, and I don't know. I think if they would have pushed it to 3 or 3:10, that they could have probably gotten the story in. Because if David Lynch was able to do it in 2:16, I really think someone like Denis Villeneuve could do it. I mean, no disrespect to David Lynch at all, but I think that Denis Villeneuve probably could have gotten this in 1.
Yeah, because the thing that I feel like, the thing that I knew about Dune going in, the one thing that I did know is that it was a gigantic world. Yeah. Like, Dune is
thousands of years,
right? And
galaxies.
You see all these different other authors, like we were talking about, like George R. Martin, and even George Lucas with Star Wars, like picking out pieces of Dune and using it for their, like, Dune seems to be like a foundation of a lot of sci-fi.
Yeah, it really is,
because
like
of
the mothership of sci-fi.
Right, so much to choose from. So in order to capture everything, I don't mind. I mean, I'm hoping that the second movie, I mean, obviously it's going to expand on the story, but
yeah,
I don't know. I'm excited.
Hopefully the second movie gets made. I know it seems like it's going to be like I know the executive of one of these executives at Warner Brothers said that Dune is not going to be, its sequel is not going to be based off of the box office numbers just because of the situation we're in. But I just don't know if I really trust Warner Brothers with the situation that's been going on with like Christopher Nolan leaving, all the directors being pissed off about their movies being straight to streaming, which I like that they're straight to streaming, that I don't always have to go, because not every movie I do want to see in the theater, to be honest. But just how they've treated Zack Snyder, how they've treated some of the actors who are in those movies, just Warner Brothers is not really the cleanest of characters when it comes to studios. So I could see them just saying fuck it and pulling the plug on this. It's happened before with multiple movies of theirs.
And the fact being that, like we had talked about, like they're probably going to need like how many movies to do this whole series?
At least 7 or 8.
Right. So, I mean, and then, 15 years or so probably to do that.
The attention span today, I don't know if anybody's going to want to wait that long.
That's what worries me. And you just have to also consider, like, actors coming and going, like that happens in so many other different projects. So that's the only thing that has kind of got me a little scared about this potential franchise, but I think it has a lot of potential. So
I do think that's why I feel confident that they are going to make the second one, because Villeneuve's been coming out and saying that this was just the appetizer. And I think you had mentioned something about that, Gus, that he had just said that this one is kind of to introduce some things and the second one was going to be more action-based. And I think that the only reason why he took so long to set the stage in this one is because he knows he's going to get the green light on the second one. And David Lynch, I don't think, knew. David Lynch knew that, like, this is something they're going to give me one shot to do.
It was cursed from, like, since production started.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's like, I get one shot at this, and it sounds like he did not like what he came up with.
I don't know why David Lynch had ever even agreed to do Dune. I'm sure it was the money, to be honest, but it was his third movie. And I just don't get why he thought that this was it for him, because he had turned down Return of the Jedi. They had George Lucas had asked him to direct Return of the Jedi, and he was like, "No, thanks." So I just don't get why. Maybe it was because it was already someone else's franchise, and Dune would have been a fresh start for him. But I'm kind of glad it didn't work out, and we don't have all these Dune movies to go back on, and that this just isn't some reboot series that's going on, like the reboot hell that we're living in right now.
They're doing something new and
Correct.
original.
Yeah, kind of,
well,
right?
Original,
yeah,
right?
original. It's still IP at the end of the day. A novel. I'm calling it IP. I apologize.
Let me ask you guys this question. So besides the story, like, we're not critiquing the story, but from this film standpoint, what was your favorite part?
Ooh,
like what? Yeah,
like a. I know we're not really doing scenes, right?
Not a scene or anything, but like
we're not doing a breakdown.
Costumes or imagery or landscapes or acting.
I think the acting is extremely strong in this movie. I mean, I'm not the biggest Timothée Chalamet fan, but I don't necessarily have anything bad to say about him. I just haven't really seen too many of the movies he's in. I really like Call Me By Your Name, even though that's a controversial movie to say the least. Yeah, I mean, I've seen him in Lady Bird. I can't really think of too many other things I've seen him in, honestly. Maybe it's just because he didn't stand out to me in those, but I think this is like his moment right now to really set himself apart, just like with this class of actors that he's in. Like,
and I know you had said that his like portrayal of Paul in this film was a lot different than the other actor's portrayal.
Yeah,
of Paul
Kyle MacLachlan's version of Paul. And see, that's because I haven't read the book fully and I don't know as much as I should about that. I'm not sure which version is more accurate to how Paul is in the book.
Which did you prefer?
Oh, Timothée Chalamet's for sure, because to be honest, Kyle MacLachlan's Paul is a very cocky little asshole. Like, he knows he's the chosen one. Like, he feels that way in the movie, and in this one, I know I was just kind of critiquing it earlier that I'm not a big fan of these like emo heroes who, oh, please don't make me be the chosen one. I don't want this. But it was a very powerful performance. And
it is fitting because, I mean, Oscar Isaac's character, his father in this movie, he has a point where he basically says to his son, true leaders are called upon. They usually don't want to be.
Yeah, it's not
so it kind of fits into how they're doing this story, I think.
If you are listening and you've read the books, let us know. I would like to know which version is more accurate to the original Paul.
So, Gus, like the acting, bro, what were your favorite parts of the movie?
I think I had mentioned this to you guys before, right after we got out of the theater. One of my favorite parts in this movie is that his birthright as a male is second to his birthright as like through his mom in this movie. I don't know how many movies I've seen where the character even gets both, but then I really liked in this movie that he's gonna be the head of the family once his dad is gone, but then also that he's part of the Jenny Besseret, and like this
He's
council of
learned
witches.
in their ways.
Yeah, like his mom's been teaching him growing up and teaching him the stuff that she knows, and one of the main witches in this movie was his mom's teacher.
Yeah, and she's like the main witch who is like the right hand man or woman to the emperor.
Correct, and I just really like that they play such a bigger role in this movie, and I really like that we got. I'm gonna say just the right amount of information for it. Like I want so much more to know about them, and I want to know why they're so respected, because it seems that they're running. I told you guys that it seems like they're running stuff from the shadows, and they kind of imply that in a lot of the movie. And I don't know, that aspect of for me really stood out. And something that you said, Nate, when we were eating right after the movie, how a lot of the imagery looks like I forgot the word that you used.
Almost like concept art.
Concept art, yeah. I like that a lot. Like when the big sandworm comes out, like how small Paul looks in that scene, and his mom, and just that shows to me like how big the Dune world, like Arrakis, is, right? And like this is just one of the planets in this big scope, and I think that stuff like that is my favorite about this movie.
I would totally agree with you. I think that's what really stood out to me is his ability to take these scenes, and like my favorite part, or one of my favorite parts about science fiction and even fantasy type stuff is concept art, because it just everything's so cool, and it leaves you asking so many questions about what's going on here, and I don't know. So for him to have the ability to have these scenes which basically look like concept art pieces of different sci-fi things that you would see, it was so cool. I really like that part about
I think we should bring up the cinematographer in this movie,
okay,
because of the scenes, like what you're talking about, like the way that they're able to show you the scale of just how big this world is. It's obviously got a lot to do with cinematography, and Denis Villeneuve obviously working hand in hand to create this world. But the cinematographer's name is Greg Fraser, and he did Rogue One as well. I don't know if you guys knew that. I don't necessarily love that movie, but visually that movie is one of the better Star Wars, like just the way it looks. He also did Zero Dark 30.
Okay.
And he did Vice as well. Have you guys seen Vice?
I don't think
That's
I
the one with
haven't seen
Christian Bale where he plays Dick Cheney.
Oh, I have seen that.
I
That's a very good movie.
I've
seen that movie.
For
Shout out to
political
A-List,
drama.
because I'll go see a movie like that because it's for free.
Exactly. I remember when that movie came out. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's
though.
a good one. All right. Anyways, back to Dune. Yeah, so just the cinematography. I thought it was he really had a grasp of how to like show us the size of this world, which is immense and gigantic, and I don't even know the synonyms to use to describe this.
Fucking big.
One of my other
Big.
Fucking big.
one of my other visually favorite scenes in this movie is when the emperors, I guess you would call him the guy that has the script. What would you call that? Like his legion or like representatives, right? Like messengers, like their ship when they land, it looks like a big egg, and like the background looks really nice planet. Like Caladan is such a nice planet compared to Arrakis, it just seems like he ends up saying, Oscar Isaac's character, the Duke, ends up saying that it's like here in Arrakis we're powered by wind and like ocean, I think he says.
Yeah, that they have sea power and ocean power.
And wind power.
Land
air power and ocean power.
And that's one of my, I think a lot of people said that there isn't too many memeable things in this movie, but I thought like him saying desert power is one of those things that I could see being used as a meme, but that's some of my favorite stuff.
Something that he said that I thought would be used as a meme was, I think it was in that same conversation that you're referencing, and he says that he's like, oh, I wanted to be a pilot. And it just made me think of his role in the new Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
oh, you're right.
Yeah, right. Like, I feel like that was a direct little
Poe
He's
Dameron.
the Duke of an entire planet. He's like, I wish I was Poe Dameron.
Yeah.
I feel like we're giving away a lot of information about ourselves, like that we haven't yet. Like just the fact that we're like, this movie's pretty memeable, right? Like
exactly.
We're kind of peeling back a layer here because that's not something we've really mentioned in other movies before. Oh yeah, we're watching a certain
favorite
scene
of the entire movie is on right now.
It's a scene when what do they call it? Hunter Seeker, right?
Yeah.
It's the Hunter Seeker scene, and he just stops right before his eye. And I mean, I can't even explain it to him. I like this movie. I can't explain it why it does. Gus was saying that maybe it's because in the book, Paul has some psychic abilities, so maybe that's why it stopped right before him. But I'm just not sure because it's being ran by a person that they end up finding in this next scene, and I wonder even why he's dead. I guess they found him and just killed him, or they just beat him. But like that's something that I was also like, okay.
Folks, this podcast is going to be all over the place today because we're not really doing a breakdown. We're not really trying to do spoilers. I feel like this is our first one of these that is just like a live reaction, and we haven't had the chance to have the movie playing in front of us.
We're literally we're sitting on the couch right now, like shooting.
We're watching the movie again right now as we speak. I don't even know. Would you consider it's a commentary?
I guess.
Are we doing a live Dune commentary?
Sort
Don't wait
of.
for the director. Just ask us. We'll do it.
I think this is so funny because we are watching this. This is something I forgot to bring up to you guys that I think is so funny is that's the thing. Like to me, that's the thing.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it looks like that. And I just thought it was funny because I had seen a couple people talk about it because they call it the thing, and I'm like, that's the thing. That's what we never got to see it in the movie, but I just thought that was really funny.
I can't believe we're doing a live reaction. I'm sorry. It's just kind of crazy to me that we're doing it like this. I didn't think we would be able to do it like this for a while, but Dune is the only movie we have so far that we've covered because it's in the theater and on HBO Max at the same time. Once again, we're really diving into the world of like mainstream movie making here. I know we kind of set out to do indie movies, but there's going to be movies like this that are just so big that we have to see them.
I'm also curious to everybody that's listening, shoot us a DM and tell us if you saw it in theaters, if you watched it on HBO. I'm honestly just really curious to see how many people actually went out and saw this movie.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people care, honestly, to go see movies in theaters versus at home.
No, I don't know.
You can't really blame anyone in this day and age for not wanting to go to the theater, honestly.
Especially after the pandemic and then our experience. There's this guy that kept coughing over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's not like this guy's listening or he's going to get in trouble, but I'm pretty sure there was a dude just cracking beer cans in there or seltzers or something. The guy next to me, we were in those chairs, like the recliner type of chairs. The guy next to me was like napping next to his mom.
Wow.
You know, like he was very comfortable. I like these theater seats, but I prefer the uncomfortable, shitty movie seats, so I have my attention fully on the movie and not on how much my back hurts.
I get you.
give me the recliner, honestly.
Give you the recliner? Yeah, well, I guess I have no self-control over my sleeping.
Coming back into the movie, though, one of the other things I really like about this movie is how vital of a role, like, dreams play, or how foretelling dreams are. I just think there's this scene. A couple of times you've seen Zendaya like really early into the movie, right? We know nothing about her, and we just get to know her through little visual scenes,
Little music videos.
Yeah, that's what they were calling them, right? And it's just really cool. But she also starts the movie off. It's her talking about explaining what Arrakis is, and I don't know. I really like a lot of stuff that this movie presented that some people might not like or that seems out of touch or out of place, but I don't know. I had a lot of fun watching this movie. I really like it. Being
a person who didn't know shit about this whole world going into it, I'm really excited to see where the whole. It seems like this movie or book wrestles a lot with free will and kind of fate, I guess. So I'm really excited to see how that plays a role into things with our main character. Because I don't know, you get a lot with the dreams and such where it seems like he's
the visions.
Yeah, and visions. And there was one part where some of the witches said that there was a path that has been laid out. So I'm just curious to see, how much of this is going to fall into the decision making of our main character and see what goes from there.
Let's talk about our main character. Let's talk about the cast a little bit.
Let's do
How
that.
do you guys feel about this cast?
I think they did a good job.
Yeah? I don't feel like anyone was miscast or
No.
anything.
I like it. I like everybody in it, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty up there. Like, it's powerful, strong Hollywood cast of like main players,
Oscar Isaac seems his character. I mean, he's the dad that everybody wants.
He's very regal.
Yeah.
Huh? I mean, I get that he's the Duke and all, but Oscar Isaac knows how to carry himself with this.
And it seems like he has such a good relationship with his son. It was a bummer for me to see him pass.
I also
Spoilers!
Oh my god!
Spoilers! Whoa! Whoa.
Spoilers. It's okay. Whatever. It's fine.
Jesus Christ, Nate.
what
Have some control
Bro
here.
spoiled the last one, okay?
What I was gonna, yeah, I did. It's
Oh, yeah,
fine.
he did
That's
in the
true.
last
I
duel.
did. I was gonna say
Sorry,
about
guys.
Oscar Isaac's character, so we just Duke Leto Atreides. Sorry.
We suck at names.
I'm sorry about that. I like that he's a very compassionate king. I like that he in this scene that we're actually watching right now, like the guards don't want to let somebody through because they have a knife, and he's very like trusting, and also like when he's talking to Paul in the scene in the cemetery, Paul kind of makes it seem like, is his dad going to be just like the Harkonnens and exploit the planet? But his dad is more about building a relationship with the people that are native to Arrakis. And I just really like that dynamic because I don't know, maybe it's because I like him a lot. I could see him being like, this is the kind of king that Oscar Isaac would be.
This is the kind of king I would let rule me.
Exactly.
And I think that his view of like trying to work with the people of was it Arrakis?
Arrakis, yeah.
It looks like that might play a big role into how Paul, our main character, is going to proceed and how he deals with things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what I want to talk about? Since we're talking about the cast here, let's talk about Duncan, Idaho. Let's talk
Oh
about
my
Jason
God.
Momoa, my boy.
Dude, so funny. Super
Yeah,
memeable.
do you feel like he fits in?
I mean, honestly, not really.
Really?
I feel like he's kind of out of place. I do, but he is like that, like comic relief, like kind of bring you back down to reality type character. So I don't know.
And he plays a very vital role, like within the House Atreides. Like not so much in this movie, but in the story itself, like of House Atreides, that he's like their master at arms. Like he's like their war dude who like teaches Paul how to fight, and he teaches them all how to train. You see that they send him on. He goes to Arrakis first to like scout the planet and like kind of figure out what's going on. So it's just kind of funny that it's Jason Momoa.
I think that's the reason why I feel like he doesn't fit. I think it might be it might be my own fault, honestly, because like we were talking before we started the pod, like when we see Jason Momoa, it's kind of just Jason Momoa.
Yeah, whoever his
know?
agent is a boss, because it's written into every contract that he's in. I'm making this up, but it's written into every contract that Jason Momoa is in that he gets to just look exactly like himself and change absolutely nothing about him. Which I think is pretty baller.
Yeah,
that's
no,
sick.
that's
Like,
sick.
no, fuck you. I'm not shaving my mustache. Or
In the same
but actually, he
way-
does shave in this movie.
He
But
does.
I just think it's funny that he gets away with just being himself in every movie.
He ends up shaving in this movie, right?
Yeah, he does. Like halfway through, I think he doesn't have a mustache and
Yeah.
beard anymore. But I just think that's so funny that he gets to be himself all the time. Like, good for you, man.
Like you said, Duncan Idaho's character is very integral and respected because it's him and Gurney Halleck, right? It's
Yeah,
Josh
it's Josh
Brolin's
Brolin's
character.
character.
So there's a scene where the Harkonnen need the help of the Emperor's army, and he asked them, like the guy from the Emperor's army asked him, "Why do you need our help if there's double of you Harkonnen than there is the Atreides?" And he's like, "Well, because they're led and been trained by Duncan and Gurney." And so they're respected in the terms of this empire.
Yeah,
they
they're
know
badass.
that they're badass. And like, that's why Paul is apparently very skilled too, because he's been trained by both of them. And maybe it makes sense to me that somebody like that would look like Jason Momoa, but I think it's funny that you hear like the stuff like my boy, his voice doesn't change. He looks exactly the same.
Yeah, the year is 10,191, and we're still saying "my boy" when you see somebody.
You know, so it just stuff like that. But I like him. So I'm very neutral about it is what I want to say is somebody maybe could have been better casted for it, but I also can't think of somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like it. I just think it's funny. You can appreciate something and still think it's funny. You know what I
Correct.
mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But I just feel like Jason Momoa is kind of branching out right now into other roles, like just besides being Aquaman. And like this is a really good start. And if Denis Villeneuve wants him in a movie, obviously he's a pretty good actor.
I agree.
I feel this is I don't know if this is like a bad comparison or not, but like Batista's in this movie as well, Dave Batista, and I feel like he's a great actor. And he was laughable in the beginning, like, oh really, another wrestler is going to be an actor, but he's a good actor as well. So like, I kind of think we have this like bias against like big buff dudes in movies. We kind of tend to think that they can't be actors for some reason.
Because we got hit with The Rock.
Yeah.
And we all know how his acting is. So.
Batista can act circles around The Rock. The Rock is the superior wrestler.
Even John Cena. I've been liking John Cena.
Yeah, John Cena's pretty funny.
I would say that Dave probably wins in terms of the wrestlers that's been in more respected prestige movies. Yeah, like John Cena is lately been in some
comedies.
In comedies, and then I remember a long time ago when he did that movie The Marine, which is what
my dad took me to go see that because I love John Cena and wrestling so much.
Correct, and those are like the type of movies that WWE made for their characters. Like I remember Triple H was in one, Kane was in one.
See No Evil, that's the Kane one.
Exactly. See, you remember, but that's like all of those movies were the ones they would make for. But it seems like Dave Bautista is the only one that has branched out. He's been in 2 Denis Villeneuve movies, and he always has. I know you really like him in Blade Runner because he has the little glasses.
The little glasses on the bigger the person. It's good acting.
This is cinema. You know? But bouncing off of characters that we like in this, I really like the Skarsgård, Stellan, the Baron in this movie. Yeah. He's the villain. He's really, really good. I don't know if I've seen him in anything else. I know you guys said Chernobyl, right?
He's in Chernobyl, and like the things you've probably seen him in is he plays Dr. Selleck or something like that in the Thor movies. Okay. And he's in the first Avengers movie. You know how Loki is like taking over the tower in the first Avengers movie, and he's got the scientists up there doing his thing. That's Stellan Skarsgård.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you've seen him in other things. I think he might be in the DC universe as well. Don't quote me on that. But he's in a lot of big franchise movies.
And the Skarsgård, as you guys both were saying,
they're an acting family.
They're good. I know one of them is It, right?
Yeah, one of them plays Pennywise.
Mm-hmm. And the other one's gonna be in Robert Eggers' movie. You said right, Nate?
The Northman, yeah.
Yeah, so
can't wait for that.
This is like the second time we've brought it on a podcast. It has nothing to do with it, but yeah, we're really excited about the Northman.
Invite us A24.
Wink, wink. But yeah, I really like the Baron in this movie, and Batista's his nephew, and you said that maybe Batista's character and hopefully the second movie. He probably will play
a much bigger role if there is a second movie, which we're hoping for. Please give us another movie.
I know. I'm really hoping there's a second one.
I really don't like that we're going to have to wait like 3 or 4 years for this movie.
Yeah. That's what I'm just hoping that if they do greenlight the whole franchise, that they start start filming
pump these bad boys out,
like,
right?
Yeah, like, come on. But
what'd you guys think of like Zendaya hardly being in the movie at all?
That's exactly what I was going to bring up next. What, she was in it for what did we say, like 7 minutes?
I think I seen an article that said they had clocked that she was in the movie for 7 minutes.
And I guarantee you probably like 5.5 minutes of that is in Paul's dream sequences where she doesn't say anything. So I was surprised that she was in it for as little as she was. I was looking forward to seeing more of her. But like I said, this whole movie just made me want more in general. So they should,
especially because of how it's marketed, right? Like Zendaya is always sitting with Timothée Chalamet at these interviews that they're doing about it, and through the movie, it shows that she's gonna play a very important role, and she plays a very important role in the books and in this story as it hopefully will continue. Her name is what? Chani, right?
Yeah,
Chani.
She's one of the Fremen. You know who else is one of the Fremen? Is Javier Bardem.
Yes.
He plays the leader of the Fremen, Stilgar.
I was very excited to see him. I actually didn't know that he was going to be in this movie. So I was excited for that.
Yeah. It isn't exactly like a big role. Mm-mm. I think like we're going to keep saying probably for the rest of the podcast, if there's another movie, he'll probably play a big role in that as like Paul's somewhat other father figure, I would say.
Right.
Because of what Nate already spoiled.
I'm sorry. Maybe they missed it, all right? Now you
maybe they missed it.
But it brought joy to me just to see Javier Bardem and Josh Brolin in the same room again. Little No Country for Old Men reunion, So I just thought that was cool.
Josh Brolin is also someone who's worked with Denis Villeneuve before, because I'm sure you guys have seen Sicario, right?
That movie is,
Yeah, and he's badass in that movie as well. I love that Josh Brolin just continues to play this role of like, I'm a badass. Like that's pretty much his only character trait.
have you guys seen the other movie that he's in, Old Boy?
If you know who you are, you understand that joke was for you.
Exactly. That's so funny. But I am going to say, and we were talking about it too, is that it's very hard now to not see Josh Brolin as Thanos.
Yeah, it really is. just because of the voice. Like, they didn't really do anything with the Thanos voice to change, like, the pitch or the tone of it. So it's literally just Josh Brolin.
And his CGI is his chin.
The CGI is just, you can tell it's him under the CGI.
Exactly, which I like. Don't get me wrong, I like. But now it's like, wow, it's because I think I wouldn't say he's an exceptional actor, but I like him in movies. I've always like the type of character,
that force, that just, I wouldn't even know what to call it. Like right now, I just looked over at the screen and he had like an icy stare in his eyes. You know what I mean? Like, he's a good intimidator.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah, but he is also really good in this movie. I wanted to ask you guys what you guys thought of Paul's mom, which is Rebecca Ferguson, Lady Jessica.
Yeah.
And like what you guys thought, do you guys think she was casted good, or can you see somebody else doing that? Because a lot of people I read in the reviews that they really like her in this movie.
I think she played a really, really like strong role in this movie, because I'm sorry to throw it back to the 1984 one. She's kind of an afterthought, even though she is so important. And I feel like Denis Villeneuve understood that, like, Lady Jessica is much more important than Leto is. So a good portion of this movie is just Paul and his mom hanging out, which I thought was cool, because that's not, like you were saying earlier, just her being like such a centerpiece of this movie is not something you've really seen before. Like the mom being so important. They usually throw the moms to the side, which is a shame, honestly.
The only movie I've seen lately that I feel so strongly about where the mom was a big presence, Hereditary.
Yeah.
Besides this, and
or like Mother or something like that.
Correct.
But even then, those movies are somewhat casting moms in a negative light. And in this movie, I feel like they didn't really give it away too much. But that Jessica, if like Paul is a badass, Jessica is even more of a badass, because
Correct.
she's basically a superhuman.
My thoughts on her is I think that she was well cast. I like the actress a lot. I don't recognize her from anything else.
Yeah, me neither.
Or I might just be putting it out of my head, but I thought she did a really good job. Like you said, Gus, I was very surprised, especially because in my head, just going into it, like you'd seen Dave Bautista, you had seen Jason Momoa, Oscar Isaac, and Zendaya and everything. And Josh Brolin. Like, I thought the movie would be more centered around those characters, and then to have like the moms in it for the beginning part, but then the second half, a good chunk of it, like you said, Gus, is just Paul and Lady Jessica. So to have that, I was surprised by it. It was interesting to me to see once they were kind of out in the desert, like the two of them together.
Yeah.
You saw it seemed like she kind of took a backseat role and is just letting Paul make the decisions, which I think is cool, because I think that she knows that he has to make the decisions in order for whatever path that the witches were talking about to come to fruition. So I'm excited. I think that it was pretty cool to, like I said, see her take a back seat and let the kid make the decisions.
I feel like this movie and plenty of other movies and hero story, basically any hero story, is somewhat of like a religious analogy. Mm-hmm. And this is like very heavy with like the religious overtones and the Messiah, and like Paul is Jesus, quote unquote.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like she very much is like that Mary Magdalene type of role, but not Mary Magdalene, sorry, but that's Jesus' mom's name, right? Is Mary?
Yeah.
Mary
Who are you thinking about?
Wow, I know more about movies than I do about the Bible. I misremembered, sorry, but yeah, his mom's name is Mary, and I don't even know where I was really going with that. I got so distracted by that. That's hilarious.
Mary Magdalene.
But yeah, oh my god. But I do like that she let Paul make the decisions, because she, like, this is all her plan, like, for Paul to be the chosen one. And we know that she defies, like, her orders, which was to only bear daughters, because the Bene Gesserit don't want any men in their race. And for Paul to be, like, what she wanted is obviously going against everything that she was trained to do.
I thought it was cool in one of the dream sequences that Paul had, and it was basically revealing that she was pregnant with the second kid, and she had all like the scripture written on her forehead, cool. And she had what are the people called, the supercomputer people that you're talking about earlier?
Oh, the Mentats.
The Mentats. These people in the movie, they're basically, I guess, supercomputers, but they're given away by, they have like a little black square on the bottom lip, and in that scene she had one too.
Oh, she did, right?
So she had the scripture written on her forehead, she was holding the baby, and she had that on her lip. And I'm curious if that's like an allusion to how powerful she really is. And I'm curious to see how that's going to play out in hopefully the next few films. So I don't know. I think she's going to play she's obviously playing a huge part already. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I like her as a character. I thought she did really good. What was her name as an actress again?
Rebecca Ferguson.
Rebecca Ferguson.
So I know that. So when I first watched it, I had missed. I know that even he says it in the movie that his visions don't exactly come into fruition.
Yeah.
But I had missed in that scene the first time I saw it that her eyes are blue and so are the babies, and so that it was kind of tying to what you're saying is I think later in the hopefully next movies that we see is she's gonna also start to become a very important character for the people of Arrakis. And I keep saying the Fremen because I always that word just doesn't stick to me, but because now. At the end of this movie, it seems that it's heading that they're going to try to help them and side with them and stay in Arrakis. And I just think it's like very cool that we might see her in the next movies being that supercomputer type of character that, what is the one that, Thurir Hawat is the name of it. Thufir, sorry. Thufir.
Oh, my.
But he plays, which I like that character a lot too. Paul seems to be very affectionate towards him too. But yeah, the mom plays a big. What I was gonna say is that this movie, for a little bit, reminded me because of the witches and like leading your son into stuff, a little bit like the Green Knight too. You know, and then
true.
I had that same thought. I did actually have that thought, like setting the grounds for your
correct
kid to make the decisions they need to do what they need to do. Yeah,
it's funny because we were mentioning how Dune has been inspired by so many things, or Dune has inspired so many things, but then like I know that King Arthur is something that has inspired Dune as well.
Right.
So then for it to be tied into the whole like Arthurian legend type of thing, these stories are all somewhat similar. These hero stories,
of course,
yeah. So it can't be helped that they're all going to seem somewhat similar.
A hero's journey is a hero's journey.
Because after I walked out of this, after I walked out of this movie, I felt like if I had to, somebody's like, "What is this movie?" You know, in like one sentence or something. I felt like it would be. Or just like a quick little thing. It was like it'd be a mixture of me like to Game of Thrones and Star Wars in terms of what to expect visually and also I guess like the political side of things. Like there's a lot of politics going on, and I know Star Wars, like a lot of the prequels, is really funny. Is based off of like
politics and trading.
Politics, yeah.
Space opera.
And it looks like a kid movie
about
but
trading.
But this, that's what, like, I walked out after I had seen it alone and thought, like, wow, because I haven't seen Game of Thrones. I just know it's really good, and I like a lot of medieval stuff. And this seemed very, like you said, very inspired by Arthurian themes, is what I would say. About
like the whole Chosen one thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it just reminded me that the witches reminded me that same like the Green Knight, that they kind of set everything up for him.
I kind of have a hot take for this movie.
Give it.
Go ahead.
Is this the best white savior movie of all time?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Well, that's something we can't ignore. I mean, we can totally skip over this. I just think this is something funny to bring up because, you know, the time we live in and people are always going to bring stuff like this up. But just because it's written in the 60s and it's like the story of Paul and he goes and he adopts all these like Arab names and culture because Dune is like heavily inspired.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about
Arabian stuff and like even the like the language, like Paul's being called Lasan Al Ghaib and the Muad'Dib later on, and just all these different names. And I think it's very cool that it's inspired by that. But I just thought that was a funny thing that was going around on the internet, that this is like the best white savior movie of all time.
You know what? That's really funny. That's yeah.
I mean,
I had not heard that.
It can't be denied because that is what it is. But it's just funny. It doesn't make the movie better or worse. It's just a funny thing about it.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Sorry, didn't mean to make anyone feel uncomfortable. I just thought that was too funny to pass up on.
That is funny.
I was gonna ask you guys how you guys thought the weapons were in this movie, like how you guys felt about like the Chris knife.
Okay. So that was my biggest thing when watching. There's like a huge, like almost invasion type scene. And all these ships have these fucking crazy lasers and these like missiles and explosives, but these people, nobody has guns. Everybody has like swords and staffs, and it seemed like towards the end of the movie, Paul, the main character, had some type of gun.
Yeah, he has like a little pistol,
like a little,
that gets taken away from him.
But like that surprised me and also kind of confused me.
They even have cool shields. And They
Yeah,
don't have guns.
Like they have full body shields to protect them from these like knives and swords and shit, but
Guns are
there's no
uncivilized
guns.
weapons.
But you can shoot rockets from your spaceships. Like I don't know. I thought it was weird.
The only other gun that I did see is the one that Dr.
Yue.
Yue,
Yeah.
Dr. Yue, we end up
It's
finding
like a
out.
dart gun.
He uses a dart gun. And that was the only other gun that I saw in the movie besides the one at the end that Paul takes. And that's apparently it's just talked about more in the scene. He has to earn the right to wield that gun too. Like he gets his own after he's gone through the practice or something.
Oh yeah, cool. We're seeing this. Because we're watching this. We're seeing a scene right now that Nate had just brought up earlier.
But yeah, I don't know. I was just like, no guns. I mean, like that's obviously just a like a style or story choice by what was the original writer's name?
Frank Herbert.
Frank Herbert. That Frank Herbert chose. I'm guessing.
I think that's just like a plays with like the more fantasy element of this movie than it
Yeah.
does the sci-fi, because I know in a lot of fantasy worlds, whether it's like set on a different planet or it's like back in time or it's a future where the world has reset to like a medieval time, usually guns is not something they like have in these things. It's always swords in fantasy. I just think it more of that whole King Arthur thing.
It's just-
like
it's more
it just looks
intimate.
cooler, honestly.
Yeah, it's more intimate, and then you can the shields. The shields are cool. I actually like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I thought it was interesting. Like, yeah, they have shields and they don't get hit. Like, I don't know.
I kind of want to talk about this, like the technical stuff of this movie, like you're talking about, like the effects and the set design and all that stuff. I thought the ships looked like not really cool because they're very like, I don't even know how to say it, like brutalist architecture. Like they're very square and just gigantic. They're not really like the way Star Wars makes their ships.
No.
Like it's the only other point of reference I really have, or like Star Trek or something like that. But
the ships are definitely a little more surreal than I think your typical spaceships.
The only ones that are sleek are the ones that Duncan Idaho, when he comes back in the first scene, he has like this it's like a thin saucer
Like a
kind of
saucer.
looking
It's a
thing.
saucer type of ship,
his is
not
the
a
only
ship
one that
like
seems
a-
like it could be in Star Wars. Everything
Yeah.
else is very, like you said, grand and massive. The one that comes out of the water.
I think they did a good job to make sure that they set themselves apart from the things that they have inspired.
Yeah.
They did a good job of making sure they didn't look like Star Wars, which is it's a real shame that they have to, even though they inspired all of this stuff, they now have to worry about looking like the other thing, because they didn't, like, if this had maybe been successful in the 80s, we would have a visual language for Dune already, but we don't have that yet. So we have to compare it to what we have seen, which is Star Wars, which took a lot from it. And I just think it's like a shame, because I know you've seen the Letterboxd review, and I don't know if it's trolling or not. It most likely is. They're like, why did this movie look so much like Star Wars?
Yeah. And I hope it was trolling,
I'm sure it was.
But it also, you can't get mad at people if they just don't know, like if they just don't know
No, you can.
that Dune that Dune is older and George Lucas was inspired by it. But yeah, I agree with you. I do like that they weren't like, oh, that could be in Star Wars. The only one I thought was the one that Duncan Idaho. And actually, since we're talking about it, I like how the helicopters work in this movie. Like they're like dragonflies,
They're
right?
called like ornithopters.
I thought it was so cool.
They look like dragonflies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what would be more of like a visual reference that this movie gave me was Halo. Like
Yeah.
with the giant suits, like those kind of look like Master Chief suits. The big giant like ships that haul other ships remind me of the things you would see in Halo. Like I felt like that really fit like a reference point. If you have no idea what we're talking about, like because you haven't seen this movie or I don't know how you haven't seen anything about this if you're on the internet, but just like think Halo, but not so colorful because it's all desert.
That's a good comparison.
I did like the city. What is it? Does the city have a name?
Yeah, okay, so they live on Arrakis, but
Yeah.
the city is Arrakeen.
Arrakeen.
Yeah.
I really liked when they first arrive at the city, you get this massive aerial shot of the entire city just to kind of give you the scope of it.
I wonder if they did that with miniatures.
Probably.
And instead of CGI.
It may be that with a mix of CGI in there or something, but I feel like besides one scene that I know you
It's unforgivable.
don't like, yeah, I thought the CGI was pretty good. I thought it was like pretty seamless for
Yeah, I
for a
mean,
lot of
9
it.
out of 10 for the CGI,
Yeah.
but that scene that I'm mentioning,
Yeah.
it's in the trailer where we see a guy fighting, and then his mask comes off, and it's Paul, and he looks like a PS2 graphic.
It's bad, honestly.
Yeah, I just don't understand how a movie that cost this much and was on the shelf for a whole year could still have a scene that just looked that bad.
Yeah, I just can't. I just don't understand how you can have a whole movie look seamless and beautiful, and then one scene just looks kind of like dog shit. But I don't know.
Yikes, that was rough.
It's okay. Yeah, it did look off though, and I wonder if it's because they had an actor doing all those flips and stuff, so they had to CGI his face onto there. Like, what is the reason they even had to CGI his face?
Post production.
Not trying to compare it to Marvel or anything, but when Iron Man's mask comes off, like up and down, that looks like seamless. Like, it really does look like he is wearing a helmet. And maybe I'm stupid and he actually is, but I've seen quite a bit of the set pictures, and I'm pretty sure it's all CGI.
I was gonna say, I think because Robert Downey Jr. in those scenes is just kind of still standing, and it opens, right? And then that scene, Paul is like flipping and killing like 3 people, so it might be a stunt actor. And then to like, I guess to not cut or something, they're like, let's just CGI Paul's face into it.
I'm glad you brought this up, that scene, like the flipping and everything, because I know we like Timothée Chalamet, and we've agreed on that already, that he's really good in this movie. But what do you think of him as like a badass? Has that set in for you yet?
No, I wouldn't say that. Like, seeing this movie, I wouldn't consider him a total badass yet. I mean, he can fight, and he obviously proves his kind of worth towards the end of the movie. He demonstrates his fighting capabilities, but I think that this movie, he's kind of progressing towards that. Like, I haven't seen him. Like, I didn't see him on screen. I was like, wow, that's my fucking hero. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's slowly
he's no Duncan Idaho.
And he's slowly, like, you can tell he's maturing and kind of dealing with this hand that he was dealt, and these things that he maybe didn't want to deal with at first, but there's really no choice.
Not after what happens. No.
Exactly. So I think that he's kind of progressing, and maybe in the second or third movie, I'll feel that way. But no, I didn't see him and it was like, yeah, like, get it. No.
Okay, I'm glad I wasn't the only one. I wonder how, like, the general audience is going to feel about that. Like, is Timothée Chalamet someone that they believe in as a hero? Because that's essentially what we're dealing with, is kind of like a superhero movie at the end of the day. I know it doesn't really seem like that, but he's a guy with powers in a fantastical world. This is as close as we're going to get to like superhero without it literally being.
I mean, Duncan Idaho kind of makes fun of him in a little scene. It's like very self-aware. I mean, he's like, oh, have you been getting bigger? He's like, really? No. Like, no. Come on. Even that's not true. It is a little hard to see him in that light because he's fit. Like, it's so funny because you're biased towards the physically big guys, but like they must not be as good actors. But then like Timothée Chalamet, it's just really funny because he got trained by Josh Brolin and Jason Momoa. Yeah. So it's very, it's there for us we're supposed to think he's a really good fighter. He's very well trained. Exactly. Right. But it's still just, I don't know. I guess it's just human to just think like, well, he looks pretty scrawny to me, But he's like I said, I like him. He's a good actor. He sold it as much as he could to me, but I don't think Nate said it well, I don't think you go, that's my hero.
Yeah, I think over time, especially if they get to make more of these, that he's going to be able to set himself apart as like a leading man in that sense of like a badass or an action type of hero, but is a little rough in the beginning.
The way I'm kind of looking at it, I mean, even since we've been comparing this so much to Star Wars, is like compare him to Luke. Like in the very first scene of Star Wars, when you see Luke Skywalker for the first time, like he's kind of an annoying teenager. Yeah, like, you know what I mean. Like true. I never like same feeling. I don't look at him and go, that's who's gonna save the galaxy.
Exactly.
But then towards the second movie, you're like, Luke's a fucking badass. Like, you know what I mean? Like when he's fighting like the snow monster and shit.
That's
so
a great
I feel
example.
like maybe that's how this is gonna progress, and I hope that it does. I think that Timothée Chalamet could deliver that kind of performance, but. I
think maybe the reason we feel that way too is because you see Oscar Isaac as his dad, and you're like that makes sense, like and
that
was man. My hero.
Yeah, exactly. That is my king.
Yeah, like 100%.
That's my Duke.
And it sucks even how he's taken out in this movie. How
third time.
I mean, it's been broken, but I mean, I just meant how they like. Take him out of his role, like it being like he was in a safe spot, and how they kind of like I'm lost of words here that I'm thinking of, like how they get him down, and like they have that whole shield, right, and they throw, like, it's just weird how certain things will go past the shield, and certain things
That's what I was going
won't.
to talk about earlier.
The slow blade penetrates the
Yeah.
shield.
Slow moving
Yeah.
objects can penetrate the shields, but fast moving objects can't.
But a dart did.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe it's a special type of dart, right? But
Because like you could even see it with when they were bombing everything. Like they had those things that slowed down and then spun
yeah,
to blow everything up to counteract those shields. So maybe it was something like that.
I think we got to talk about the sandworm.
oh yeah, definitely.
Should we
Damn.
talk about them?
Tremors.
I did have.
Tremors.
Talk
Get
about
out of
Tremors.
here.
I know, yeah,
What'd you call it? The one from SpongeBob?
The Alaskan bullworm.
Yeah, big old Alaskan bullworms in this movie.
Yeah.
So there's obviously more than one because the doctor, which I don't want to talk about her later. What her character's doctor, I think is
Leanne Kites.
Leanne Kite. Sorry, I can't fucking read this from this far. Apparently, I'm getting every name wrong. She when they're on the helicopter ride is saying that if you're probably gonna see a worm because they come out every single time that they're mining for the spice. And it's because she's like, oh, this is a big one. So obviously there's not just one huge worm. There's a lot of worms in this story. And there's one specific one that's, I guess, the biggest. It looks like it's the biggest one. I don't know, obviously, but
Who they
he's the
reference to
special
as
one.
Shai Halud.
Exactly. He's a special one. And the scene that he comes out and here, he's chasing Paul, is very, very interesting.
I believe in like the lore of Dune that like there's a great sandworm, like one that the people of or the Fremen that they worship as like their god, just because I mean it's a giant monster who
It's the
lives on
biggest
the
thing
planet.
on
What are you
the
gonna do,
planet.
right? I
Yeah.
guess you kind of gotta
And they make
worship it.
knives from his teeth.
That's badass,
Pretty cool.
right?
Those are cool. I'll give him that.
Yeah, the Chris knife. That's the Chris knife, right?
Yep.
The one he keeps seeing in the visions.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
What I was gonna say is her character. What I like that she
We're talking about the
inputs-
doctor here?
Yeah, exactly. She takes him to like that ecological spot, and then she starts talking about how the planet Arrakis could have been a paradise, but as soon as they found out there was spice, they kind of abandoned the idea of helping it and making it full of water. And I just kind of like that ecological aspect into this movie thrown too. That there's like that's something that don't really see much of, and I just like the thought of everybody just kind of quit because there's money to be made. And
Capitalism, baby.
Yeah,
even in 10,191.
commentary on capitalism, which is always good to hear. You know?
Oh man, this isn't really about the actual character in this movie, but just the lineage of who's played this character is that Max von Sydow from The Exorcist, Father Marion, played Leanne Kites in the original Dune. I just think that's cool that she's adopting that role from like such a legendary actor, such an iconic film like The Exorcist.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool that he was in the original, and yeah, she gives a definitely strong performance in this one. Her role is a lot bigger in this film, as they don't really focus on that character too much in the original Dune, but in this one, she plays a very vital role.
Yeah, it does seem like she plays a really big role because there's a point where it seems like she knows information directly from the Emperor.
Yeah, she seems to be like the person in this story who's the most tied in to every like aspect of what's going on.
Because when Duncan comes back after something, I don't want to give out there's too many spoilers. Sorry, that's why I'm not getting specific. But he gets mad at her for not warning them about certain things, and she says like I can't give information, even what I know. I can't tell you guys.
She's supposed to not pick any sides. She
Exactly.
directly works for the Emperor.
But she ends up picking a side.
Which we think
There's a lot of people that have their own motivations
and agendas. in
and
this movie.
agendas. And it's interesting because you have these people who are loyal to the Emperor and, you know, like I can't give out any information, but the Emperor seems like a total dick. Like,
Yeah.
to be honest, like from the little that we, on the, you know, his agenda that we've seen, like the guy's a total dick. So I don't know.
We had a lot going on like the political aspect of this, and like everybody having their own agenda. The Harkonnens have their own agenda. The Emperor's got his own agenda separate from them. The Bene Gesserit have their own agenda separated from everybody.
partnered with their agenda
Yeah.
with the Emperor.
Lady
like,
Jessica's got her own thing going on. The Duke has his own thing going on. The Fremen have their own thing going on.
It's huge. It's a huge world.
Yeah, everybody. This is what I mean about like it inspiring Game of Thrones and like that aspect of just all these different people like playing, making a play for
House
the throne.
Atreides, House Harkonnen.
Yeah. Just that alone, like the
another aspect of this film that I guess it is kind of a complaint or a critique, or just something that I wish I would have gotten, is from the time that what is it? Atreides? I'm sorry. It is what it is, man. I wish we got more time of their not taking over, but their move into Arrakis.
Yeah, that's a very short.
It's
period
a very
of time.
like you get this one little clip like where they had to save the people on the thing from the worm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And other than that, you didn't get a whole lot of, I don't know, them on the planet. I wish we would have seen more. I wish we would have seen a little bit more about, I don't know, maybe in the book, do they take over that fast? Like, does that shit happen that fast?
Yeah, but with books, you have pages and pages of things that are just describing one single sequence. So then it just feels like a lot longer.
Yeah. So I guess I wish we would have got a little bit more of that, but no, it was good.
I do wish this movie was longer. That's one of my only complaints.
Yeah,
I wish I could have got it all right now. That's my only complaint. This is like, I don't want to say close to a perfect movie, but it's pretty up there, like on my best of the year so far.
It is.
I just think we've been thirsty for something like this for a long time that wasn't Marvel or DC.
Yeah, it's just something new. It's something big. It's something new to me. I don't know. I love sci-fi. Like, I love sci-fi shit. And the scope of this world is just getting me super excited that it's something that I don't know anything about.
Do you think you might read the books, maybe?
I think I'm gonna, yeah.
You're gonna attempt it? You're gonna attempt it?
For sure. I'm very curious. Because I don't know. I love the whole political thing it has going. I wish we would have gotten a little bit more of that in this movie. So yeah, I don't know. I just want to dive into this world, honestly.
I want to ask you, because we had a kind of opposing views about this. I thought the first like hour or so kind of dragged, but you said you felt like the second half dragged.
I did. Yeah, we did have opposing views on that. I thought that the part with, which it's crucial, and I talked about it earlier, like the whole part with his mom in the desert and her letting him make the decisions and guide them to, wherever they're going. I just felt like it dragged. Like, I get that it was important, but I think I liked the beginning a little bit more because, like, I had no experience with this world, really.
So getting all the exposition.
Getting the exposition was good. Getting to learn the characters I was enjoying. The change from the two worlds I liked. And then the end, it was just kind of like, them journeying. So, which I don't mind, but I guess this is my personal opinion.
What about you, Ro?
Do
you feel like any part of this movie dragged?
I think I want to say that I did feel like in the middle, which is funny because you guys have first part or second part.
Okay, so basically the whole thing sucked. No, I'm just kidding.
But I don't really feel like it dragged. I could see how somebody would think it dragged. I don't think it dragged. Like I said, I do feel more in towards like I could have watched another 45 minutes of this to get more of the lore down. Like I'm already invested with the 230. Just have me there for the 310 or 320, whatever it may be. So I personally didn't feel like it dragged out too much.
And I don't want to say that it dragged, because there are movies that drag. Like, this was not, it wasn't boring. It wasn't, I wish it didn't happen. It was a little bit, I enjoyed the first part a little bit more than the second part, I guess. But it was in no means like slow or boring or anything.
Yeah, I think dragged is probably the wrong word.
Yeah, it was definitely not the right word. But I preferred the first half over the second half. Still really enjoyed the second half. Yeah.
What do you think? Should we start wrapping this up? You guys want to keep going?
I don't think I have really.
I feel like we're not really breaking it down. That's why this was just more of a live reaction. Yeah. Honestly, I could see us doing more episodes on this movie later.
Oh, for sure.
Like maybe doing a proper breakdown and things like that.
I want to look up the lore and learn some more about it, and then kind of see how Denny took it, honestly.
I mean, we're going to have a little bit of time when the year ends. I don't want to get too much behind the scenes here, but when things start slowing down and there's not so many new movies on a weekly basis, I would really like to take the time to just fully dive back into all of this and analyze it.
It's like some things I want to bring up that I wanted to see more of was, for example, the riding of the worms. And I know we saw like a little bit of it.
It's basically a tram.
Yeah, it's basically a tram from 10,100 and what is it, 10,181 or something like that. That is something. Going back to the setting of this.
It's just a tram.
And that-
Sorry.
that's so good. I was gonna say that I really enjoy about this movie is it feels to me like he went into the future and started recording. I know it's like very good CGI besides that one spot that we were talking about, but a lot of it feels like, how did this was in another planet, right? That's what it feels like to me. You went into the future and this is something that you documented. This is almost a documentary. That's how I like to think of it, at least. Because there's just certain shots and the way this world is. Yeah, we're looking at it right now and it's like, wow, like I can't believe that this is all CGI. So that's something I really enjoyed about this movie. It really made me immerse into the universe. Again, shout out to Cinematographer. But yeah, those are some of my other thoughts that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I think my closing thoughts would be, I mean, hey, see this movie. If you have HBO, watch it at home if you don't want to go to the theater. And if you don't have HBO, I mean, I don't know why you don't have HBO, but you should get it. This movie was really good. It really got me excited for what hopefully becomes a long-lasting franchise. If you're into sci-fi, if you're into politics, if you're into
Drama and
anything,
betrayal.
yeah, like this movie, it's
got a little something for
of it.
everything.
If you just want to go see some cool shit,
If you like
also a good
Zendaya
movie.
and Timothy Chalamet, your
also a good
stands.
movie to see. So yeah, that's how I'm gonna wrap it up. Go see this movie. It was good.
Okay, let's see. I definitely think this movie was very, 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 very good. I the only thing I really knock it for is it being incomplete, since we may never get another one. I know that sounds unlikely, but just trust me. If you're into movies, you know Warner Brothers does some shady shit with the franchises.
Brought up a lot of good points on that, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too much into it again, but I brought up to you guys like 4 or 5 instances of them ruining franchises or fucking over a director. So I just hope that doesn't happen with this movie, because it deserves better than that. We deserve better than that. I think this movie really proved like what franchise movie making could be. Like, just phenomenal stuff on every end. I think Denis Villeneuve is just like solidifying himself that really no one is doing it like he does. The only other 2 people, and don't take this comparison too seriously, that are doing it on like his level to me are like Christopher Nolan. Obviously, they are very similar.
I think so.
In a lot of ways.
They are.
And they've come out like they've like come up in a similar time together. And then the other director, I don't know how you guys really feel about this guy. We haven't talked about it too much, but Zack Snyder is really like the only other director that does movies like on this level of like big movie making scope and scale, like Justice League and like 300 and stuff like that, are just like the huge giant set pieces, like other than like Star Wars and Marvel and stuff like that, which we know we don't really like talking about that much. And I don't mean to say Zack Snyder's anywhere close to Denis Villeneuve, but just this scale of movies.
I was going to say, I would definitely put him below those 2 directors, but the grasp on the big scale movies, yeah, I would agree with you.
Or wanting to take that challenge of like, I'm going to make the biggest thing possible.
Yeah. Let me pump out a 4-hour movie.
Yeah, like that's awesome.
Like
I really appreciate that we have these few auteurs who are willing to do this kind of stuff, because the ones we really like, who are more in like the indie world, I always wish that those movies were like a little bit longer, or that we could get more stuff out of them. So
give
like
him a little bit more money. Like,
I love that Denis Villeneuve has his movies like Enemy and Sicarios and Prisoners and stuff like that, but his last 3 of Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, and this, I really do think he's solidifying himself as like the next great sci-fi director.
The scope is huge. Yeah,
I can agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, so what do you think? Should we wrap this up?
Yeah, wrap it up, man.
Yeah, I think.
This has been a very different episode, very off the cuff, very unplanned. But I just feel like this is what Dune does to somebody. My mind is lost right now in the spice, man.
How many worms out of 5 do you guys give it?
Bro, this is easily 4.5 worms out of 5.
I'm gonna do 4.5 too, because I can't give it 5 because of the incomplete nature of it.
That's what I gave it to. I could agree the incomplete nature of it. 4.5 worms out of 5 worms.
What's gonna be our code word of this podcast?
Ooh, it can't be what the intro was.
I think the SpongeBob worm reference is pretty good.
Alaskan bullworm.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well,
okay.
If you made it to the end of this episode, go ahead and DM us on Instagram, the Alaskan bullworm.
And the Instagram is the Grand Cinema Hotel. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. You know the deal.
Smash the motherfucking like button.
Actually, right.
Oh, you got one more thing to say?
No, about the YouTube channel, because you brought it up. There's a good amount of, well, more than we expected on some of the videos that we're watching. And was that some of the demographics you pulled up? No, right? That was from who's listened on the streaming sites,
yeah,
right?
that's like from podcasting, not
But
the YouTube side.
on YouTube, we did not the best job of promoting on there, because it seems like it took us a while to promote on there. But whoever's listening on there, I think that one is filled with a lot of people who actually don't know us. I think that one is just picking up a lot of traction from YouTube's algorithm. Just wanted to say thank you for that. And
yeah, if you're listening to us through YouTube, like that's how you found this podcast, come follow us on Instagram, DM us, let us know. We want to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
If you think we're dumb, let us know that we did not do a good job on this.
We
or
are,
whatever.
you know.
Hey, whatever, man. I never said I was a critic. I'm just a fan, right?
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, all right. So Alaskan Bullworm, if you made it this far, the Grand Cinema Hotel. Bye.
Bye.
Good night, guys.